Hey everyone, my name is Riley and this video is a complete step-by-step guide on Microsoft Excel. In this video, I will be showing you the basics of the Excel platform, how you can input data into your spreadsheet, how you can use Excel to do maths and equations for you automatically using the functions feature, how you can turn your data into dynamic charts, and everything else that you need to know. I have kept this tutorial as short and concise as possible, while still containing all of the valuable information that you need to become an Excel pro. So even if you have never used Excel before, all you have to do is follow along with this tutorial and you will walk away from this video knowing exactly how to use Excel like a pro. When you open up Excel, you should see a screen similar to this. It may look slightly different. However, in this top section, you should have a blank workbook as well as some tutorials or templates along the top. Then down here in this blank section, this is where it is going to show all of the previous files that you have worked on so you can get back to any past spreadsheets. So let's now go in and create a blank workbook. And once we open this up, this is going to give us a completely blank spreadsheet that we can start working on. We have the main spreadsheet that is shown right here, as well as a navigation menu to navigate Microsoft Excel, and along here is the toolbar. We will talk more about the toolbar and the menu later on, but for now, let's focus on the main spreadsheet right here. Each different rectangle that makes up this spreadsheet is called a cell. Every time you click on one of these cells, it's going to show you which cell is currently selected by this green box on the outside of that cell. You will also notice that we have letters going from left to right along the top, and then numbers going from top to bottom down the side right here. The numbers going sideways, these are called rows, and then the letters going down, these are called columns. So 1, 2, and 3, these are all rows, and A, B, and C, these are all columns. So that is the basic anatomy that you need to know the first time you open up Microsoft Excel. Let's now go ahead and input some data into our spreadsheet. To start inputting data or to edit any of these cells and start typing, all we need to do is select the cell that you want to start typing in and then double click on this. We can now start typing in text shown by this cursor icon that is currently flashing, showing us that we can type. So let's now enter in some data. In here, I'm going to title the spreadsheet, and once you have finished typing in that cell, click the enter button on your keyboard and that will be saved. Let's also go ahead and enter the date right here, and then we can enter in amount spent. Let's now add some more data. I'm going to put the date right here, and then I also want a column that shows the amount spent. Perfect. So we now have kind of like the menu that we are going to be using for this Excel spreadsheet. Next, I'm going to start typing in the date. Let's enter in the 1st of January right here, and you can see that is going to automatically format. However, it's going to take me a long time to go through and add all of these dates. Microsoft Excel is pretty smart and it knows this. So instead of having to go through and manually type out all of these dates, all I have to do is click and drag to select these two boxes, and Excel is going to recognize a pattern here. It knows it's a date and it sees that I'm going up daily. So all I have to do is click on this little box in the corner of this and then drag this down. And then look what's going to happen. It's going to auto-populate all of the dates up to the section I dragged it to. Now, I only dragged it to here, but I could drag it down a whole lot further, and it's going to populate all of those dates. Excel also realizes that I'm in the UK, and the way that we type dates is going to be different to that of the US. It's going to be the same if you are in the US, then it's automatically going to recognize your date system. And you can see this is correctly formatted, the British date system, as it recognizes the country that I am in. Pretty smart, right? We can also zoom in to any of this data to get a better and easier on the eye look of the data that we are viewing by going down to this zoom in the bottom right corner and then clicking on zoom in. As you can see, I am now a lot more zoomed in, and we can continue to do this till we are in the specified section. We can also click on the reverse arrow, and this is going to take us out and zoom back out. Now I'm going to finish this off. Let's actually delete all of the dates after January down here. And then I'm going to go back up and just enter in the amount that I spent on each day. So I can now see the amount that I spent on each date in January. However, looking at this sheet is still a little bit hard to read, and I would prefer to make this a little bit easier on the eye. Now we have a few options here. The first is we can either use this toolbar along the top to change things like the boldness of the text. We can also italicize this, add an underline, change the font entirely, change the font size, and even add colors to this text. So let's do that now. To do this, we simply click on the cell that we would like to change, and then we can go up to this top toolbar, and I want to add a bold. So I can click on bold, and that is now bold. Then we can change the entire cell behind it. So let's change this to a black color, and then we can also change the font color. I'm going to change this to white. Then let's do the same for these two right here. So we can click and drag once again, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing, setting the font color to white, the fill to black, and then I'm also going to add a bold. So that looks a little bit easier to read. I can also go a step further and change the actual font of this. So if I click down on the font, you can see the font is currently changing right here. And then the font size is going to be the exact same. The cool thing about this is right here, this text looks way too big for that box. But if I click on this, it's automatically going to resize. Some things that you might notice is if the text is a little bit too long, it's going to cut off at certain areas. So let's go ahead and fix this. If the font is too long and it kind of cuts off, all we have to do is just go up here to the top where we can see the letter, and then we can stretch this out. So as you can see, that's now going to fit. Let's do the same for B, spread this out a little bit. And as you can see, that's now all going to fit in, and we can read all of the text right here. If you have made any mistakes whilst creating your spreadsheet, we can go to this undo button in the top left corner. I can click undo. And then as you can see, it's going to take me back gradually through all of the changes that I have just made. Now we are back to the default. We can also change this into a table, which gives this a much nicer layout in my opinion. To do this, we just want to highlight everything that we want to include in this table, just like this. Then we can go along this top menu to insert, and then we can insert a table right here. It's then going to say the data for your table is the following range, and I will get into exactly what range means in a second. We can also select if the table has headers, which it does, and then we can click on OK. Just like that, this is now going to be formatted into a table, and this looks a lot better. Now, range. Something it just mentioned there was range, but what does this actually mean? Range essentially means what block of cells do you currently have highlighted. So if I go right here from this all the way down and I select all of this, the current range is going to be cell A4 to cell B34. So we have A4 to B34. It goes from left top to right bottom. That is what range means, and that's going to be super helpful to know when navigating and using Excel. Another awesome thing that comes alongside having a table is that we can now actually put this into one of these charts that you see at the top. So once again, we would just select the range that our data is within, and then we can choose from the chart that we want to show. For example, if I want to go for a line chart right here, I can drag this in. Look at this. It's now going to show me all of my data and how much I spent each day as a line chart. Let's change this to a bar chart. All I'm going to do is click on this bar chart, and it's now going to show me this as a bar chart. So very, very handy feature right here. We can make some changes to this. So the chart title, we can click in and then change the title over here. So we want to call this the daily spending tracker. And just like that, it's now going to be added in. But let's delete this for now. Another thing that I want to show you is not super relevant to the data that I have in right now. However, it's something extremely handy and something that you need to know. Let's say that you have a bunch of data right here. However, I wanted to add something between these two data points. Usually, you would think you would have to delete everything and then make this all again after adding in this data. However, all we actually have to do is go over to the row number, right click on this, and you can see we can insert rows above. So let's click on this, and you can see we have a new row added in right here. So if you do need to add another piece of data to an already existing data pile, that is how you can do it. Let's go back for now and delete that. Another thing that we can do with Excel is almost use this like a calculator. So I have a lot of data here. However, I'm pretty lazy and I do not want to calculate all of this myself. So there is some very handy data that we can get from Excel. All we have to do is highlight the section that we want to calculate. So I'm not going to include the date in this range. I'm just going to click and drag on amount spent, make sure all of these are highlighted, and then look at this down at the bottom. I can see the average that I spent per day was $278. I can see that this is over 31 days. So there are 31 cells in this current selection. And the total sum, the total amount that I spent in January is $8,628. We can access some other information by clicking on this arrow, and this is all of the information that we can access in this area. We can see the total sum, the most I spent in a day. So the highest number of all of these is 955, and that is right here on the 5th of January. Then we can also see the lowest was 32. That is right here on the 29th. And then we can see the numerical count as well. So we can add certain things into this area. If I want to add the max and the min, I can do that. Make sure these both have check marks. And then if I want to delete the count, I can do that as well. So that is very handy, but it's still a little bit time intensive, and I still have to go and drag and then look at all this in here. But I want to calculate my January total. So I'm going to type in here, Jan total. And I want to know exactly how much I spent in the month, but I want Excel to do this automatically. The way that we do this is something called formulas. So to access formulas, we want to click on the cell that we want this to appear in. And then right here at the top, you can see we have this FX button. This is the formula of function button. So we can click into this, and then we can see all of the different formulas and functions that we can add in. We have sum, average, count, max, min, all of the ones that we saw just down here. We can do these all automatically using the functions feature. So once again, let's click on this. And then let's add a sum for all of these. I want to know the total amount that I spent in January. So we can click into this. And it's now going to ask for the range that I want this to calculate. So all I'm going to do is click on the first cell right here. And you can see that's going to populate in with B4, which is the correct cell. And then the best way to do this, you could go down and add these all one by one, but that's not very effective. The best way to do this is we can actually calculate the entire area if we add a colon. Now this colon essentially means 2. So what I can then do is go down to the bottom here, select this bottom cell, and this now says B4 all the way to B34. We can see the function result is 8,628, which is the same answer as we got down here when we did this manually. If we now click on insert, that number is automatically going to be added. Now let's set this up in February to do this in advance. So what I'm now going to do is set February up right here. So the 1st of the 2nd of 2024. Then let's add the 2nd of the 2nd, 2024. Select both of these and then drag this down to auto-populate the entire area. So that was not far enough. We can drag it a little bit further. Perfect. Then we can delete March right here. So what we are now going to do is actually start off with the function and set this up so it's automatically going to calculate the total that we spent as we go. So in here, we will go for Feb total. Once again, click into the box where we want this, and then we can set up the function. So we will go sum. Then we want this cell right here. So this is where we are going to put the data, remember, to this bottom cell right here. Then we can click on insert, and look at that. It says nothing because there has been no data input. But as soon as I type something in, let's say we spend $500 on the first day of February. As soon as I hit enter, it's going to automatically calculate this right here. Then let's say on the second day, we spend $75. It's going to populate that as well and add these together. We can also do the same for the average. So let's say in here, I want Jan average. Let's extend this a little bit as well to make sure this fully fits. And then once again, I'm going to click on the box where I want to add this. Go to the functions tab, select the average this time because I want to calculate the average. And then once again, we do the same thing. This first box to this last cell, insert, and you can see we have the average right here. A few other things that we can do just in terms of how this looks is we can also go over to view right here. And we can turn a few things off. So for example, you may want to turn off grid lines after you have finished with your chart. And this just makes the entire thing look a lot cleaner. You can clearly see the tables and we have rid of these grid lines. We can bring them back right here. We can also turn off the formula bar. So that is an option as well. And then we can also turn off the headings at the side. We can also create a new sheet. So let's say we want to have this as just January. We can double click and rename this as Jan. Then we can open a new one and title this Feb. And then you can have multiple sheets inside of one document right here. And especially if your sheets are starting to get large, you may want to split them up into separate subsheets within the same document. You can do that right here. The final thing that I am going to cover is what do you actually do once you are finished with your file. You can either just leave this straight on Excel. And if I go back to the Excel dashboard right here, as soon as you log in, you will be able to see your file right here. You can just click in. You can click on these three dots and you can hide this, you can download this, you can delete this, so many different things that you can do. But if we go back in, the most important thing is we can go to file right here. And then we can either share this, so we can share this as a link, we can send different links to people, or most importantly, we can go down to export. We can export this as a PDF or export this as an Excel file. So if the person you are sending this to also has Excel, then this is going to be the best. However, if the person you are sending this to doesn't have Excel, then they probably won't be able to open it. So the best way to do this is download this as a PDF if they don't. It's then going to show us a summary of how this is going to look. And then once that is all set up, we can choose the sizes, the orientation, and we can click download. So that is my complete Excel tutorial for beginners. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to smash that like button and tap that subscribe button. And until next time, take it easy.